Welcome back, everybody, to Beer and Books with a friendly talking haystack, which is me. And today I want to talk about why Malazan Book of the Fallen, actually, is for everyone, which I think is something needs to be said more often. So I'm gonna do that because I'm all for repeating obvious things. So let's go and do this. Cheers. And obviously, to keep Sarge happy, this is a Helles, which is a Bavarian beer from a small brewery in Lower Bavaria, which I found relatively cheap recently, and now I'm drinking it. It's good. It's slightly sweeter, less harsh. Not harsh is the wrong word. Slightly less bitter than, for example, like the probably most popular one in Germany when it comes to Helles, which is Augustiner from Munich. This is not as heavy as it, and it's very drinkable. So that was the beer part of it, and now let's go into why Malazan is so good for everybody. And I'm gonna do this in the following way. I'm gonna talk a bit generally about what I think people look for when they read, and then I'm gonna filter that out into spread it out into different types of readers, and I'm going to then tell you why Malazan actually ticks all those boxes. So no matter what kind of reader you are, if you like reading books that are interesting, Malazan might very well have something that makes this book like a really good book for you. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do here. And just, to preface this, let me say that in my experience, a lot of people, when they first hear about Malazan, it can be very intimidating because you have the really hyped fans that tell you why this is the best thing ever happening and why it's so amazing. And a lot of those people will tell you how smart it is, how impressive it is, all those deep philosophical meanings, how complex it is, how many characters. That can be very intimidating, and it can come across as if you don't get this kind of book, you're probably not as smart as people who really tell you how smart it is. It's almost similar to that whole capital L literature, people telling people who like to read genre fiction that or any kind of other fiction, that they're not as smart as them because they don't get all this amazing smart literature. I'm not saying that's what a lot of Malazan fans do, but I guess in their enthusiasm, it sometimes can come across as this oh, we're so smart because we're getting it and you're not getting it, and if you're not getting it, you're not as smart as us. But that's not the case. I guess there's just too much enthusiasm in there. On the other hand, you have all these people out there and say, oh, it's super long, it's super complex, and it's you basically cannot get it, it doesn't make any sense, the characters suck, all these things which have been leveled as criticism as the Malazan Book of the Fallen. So it's kind of difficult to go and open this book without any, expectations, and without expectations actually that make it hard to approach it really openly, I guess. And I'm trying to do something today which is forget all of that, and no matter what kind of thing you're looking for in a book, Malazan will have it, unless it is stories about fluffy animals, which there's very few in there. Even most of the animals are kind of undead. Not all of them, sorry. And as someone who has repeatedly said that Winnie the Pooh is one of the smartest books ever written, I totally get people who want books about stories about fluffy animals. So that aside, Malazan Book of the Fallen takes a lot of boxes of things that people look for in books, and I'll go into three, four different things that people want out of books, and then tell you why they are in Malazan. All right, so let's start with the most obvious one. The people who are into stories, who like authors, who like books that are told by storytellers. Not every author or writer is a good storyteller. and some are good storytellers and don't actually focus on other things. And storytellers in good stories is what I would consider not only plot, but also cool characters, memorable. You're for the story, and you would like the story. Even if it was told by someone else with different words, you would still enjoy the story. So that's the plot, or like memorable characters, not in the way they're written, but from the facets that come across through the writing or whatever. It's something that a lot of classic, not a lot of classic fantasy, but for example, a lot of modern fantasy leans towards that. If you look at, I don't know, First Lost trilogy, or Joe Abercrombie's character like books, or The Gentleman Bastards by Scott Lynch. Those are books that could almost be made into movies. They would be really cool movies. The stories are interesting. You wanted to find out how things work, what happens, how things turn out to be, and you're interested in those characters, and you would be interested in that story even if someone else told it to you, like at a fireside. It's the kind of thing that's sort of also in fairy tales or legends or whatever. The actual story is what you're interested in, and that's fine. That's an amazing thing. And even though a lot of people always say Malazan is a theme driven, not a plot driven narrative, there's all those great stories in there. In fact, there's a ton of them in there because it's a collection of all these happening. It's more like a chronicle, it's more like historiography. So there's a lot of those like individual stories in there that you can look at and read and say, whoa, this is really cool. Even in the first book, which a lot of people say is not the easiest way to start this story. Just, go and focus on, if stories are what you're looking for, go and focus on that. Focus on the story of Crocus in the first, like, it takes a couple of chapters until he appears, but focus on that, on those things that happen there in Darujistan. That's just like cool characters doing cool shit and a cool story unfolding there. Or focus on whatever the bridge burners are up to, or all these other, focus on an individual story and read that, and go ahead and you will enjoy it immensely. The same with the next book. There's amazing stories in there that you can enjoy without ever thinking about anything in the background, without ever trying to understand the magic system, to look into all kinds of references to other literature or whatever. You can ignore all of that and just focus on the really cool stories. And that's fine. If that's what you want out of it, go ahead, read it that way, and have a lot of fun. It's 10 books packed full of stories that you can then, like, tell everyone else about how cool they are. All right, so we have stories and storytelling in there. That's really cool. Now let's go to the next one. And that's a more visual, I would call it a more visual style of tale of writing. It's about cool set pieces, cool battles, cool individual duels or whatever, cool fight scenes, really impressive. Something that you read and it becomes like an impressive picture in your mind. You can visualize how things look. It's what you want when you go into the movies and you watch, I don't know, some of those superhero movies or whatever. You're in there for the really impressive battles and stuff like that. You just like sit back and like, holy shit, that was just really amazing. That's something you get in Malazan a lot, like a lot, all the time. Not all the time, but it's in there, and you don't need to think about anything else. You can forget the story, the characters. It doesn't matter. You read that first siege in the first book, and Anamander Rake shooting down magic and wizard from down there shooting up magic onto this like giant rock flying in the sky. And I'm not spoiling anything here. This is like on the first chapter. Second chapter? I don't know. But you look at that and this is incredible. This is something you want to see in a movie. This is something you want to watch from a safe distance, probably. But and Malazan is full of those things that you just like say, whoo, holy shit, that's crazy impressive. Or you have like really well done, because he knows what he's talking about. You have really well done fight scenes, like individual duels, fencing in there. That is really cool. And you can read that. I mean, when you have writers that actually know how fencing works, you get like very descriptive fencing scenes in there. Stephen Erickson knows that. There's some of that in newer Neil Stevenson, who is like a fencer. There's more of those authors, but you can tell if an author actually knows how fencing works and is putting that into his story. So the duels are also like individual scenes in there are just very, very well done and very impressive. And you can read those and enjoy those and not think about anything else. And it's still a really enjoyable book. And if that's what you want, if you want cool fights and you want cool magic, that like big explosions and everything, go ahead, read the book, and you will have a lot of those in all 10 books, and that's fine. And you don't need to know anything else to enjoy the Malazan Book of the Fallen. So we have two. We have like really good stories, and we have really cool fight scenes, like really impressive visuals, like written down visuals, obviously, but visuals, and that's cool. So let's go to the third one. And now we come to dialogue. Maybe you're one of those people who just really wants witty back and forth dialogue between characters, and that's just like, a certain sense of humor, a certain, repartee, that kind of thing. Maybe it's dry humor you want. Maybe it's really elaborate wordplay kind of thing. The stuff that Jack Vance puts in his into his Dying Earth novels or something like that. Maybe no matter what you like, you really enjoy the more character, the more like dialogue back and forth between characters. Well, if that's your thing, then Malazan has a ton of that. You don't even need to wait until book 5 to get like some of the best dialogue ever. But you get that from book 1 onwards. You have really cool back and forth characters. You have a sense of humor that varies from character to character. If that's like the kind of thing that you enjoyed, once again with Scott Lynch, who is really good at this kind of dialogue, or with Joe Abercrombie, who has this super dark, sparse, dry humor prose, not prose, but dialogue. You find all of that in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. That's really, really cool. And you can just read it for that and, slam the book and laugh about some, like, comeback that someone put out there. It's incredible. So go ahead and read it just for that, if that's your kind of thing. So in general, I guess humor in the Malazan Book of the Fallen is something that a lot of people kind of, don't talk about too much, but there's a lot of humor in there and it's really funny. All right, so we have that in there. You have really cool dialogues in there, no matter what the rest of it. You don't need to think about any of the rest. You will have a lot of fun if that's your kind of thing and you just focus on that and ignore the rest. You will have a lot of fun with it. So that's like the third thing. We have the cool stories, we have the great visuals, we have really well done dialogue between characters all over the place. That's 3 reasons why you should read the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And each of those is enough to actually read the book, is what I'm trying to say. So it's for all of you people who enjoy at least one of those 3 things. Okay. Now we come to the next one, world building. I know there's people out there who really enjoy their world building, who really enjoy their complex magic systems, the ages on ages, the cultures that have risen and fallen, all of that. The people who praise Brandon Sanderson, and the people who say, whoa, I love the Silmarillion, it's the best thing Tolkien has ever written. Those people will get a real kick out of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. It's like one of the things that everyone praises it for is the complex world building. And yeah, it's actually there. It's impressive. It has a magic system that will keep you wondering about how things work on a technical level, even though it's not that, hard magic system versus soft magic systems. Quick aside, I think the whole idea of magic systems, of systematizing magic, kind of ruins magic, and I blame Dungeons and Dragons and computer games for that, and that's maybe a topic for a different talk. Also, obviously, Jack Vance had a systematized magic system. Obviously, we have that when we look at real world magic, but the actual focus on, oh, I need to understand this magic system is something I blame gaming in general for, and I think it takes a lot of the, the mystique and magic out of magic, if you understand what I mean. Anyway, world building in there. You have extremely well done world building. Cultures make sense. They're unique in a way. They take enough from real world anthropology and archaeology that we know, so that it actually feels like it makes sense. The magic system is impressive, is also very unique. All of those, you can sink your teeth in that world building and make theories on how things worked out and how cultures worked out. You can do that forever and ever and ever, and never think about the plot and never think about anything else, and you will really, really enjoy it. So this is the next one, the fourth reason, like the fourth aspect of the Malazan Book of the Fallen that's really well done, and that's a reason that if you enjoy that kind of writing in your slightly fantastic literature, the Malazan Book of the Fallen is something you should go for, and ignore the rest if you don't enjoy the rest. And you will still have a lot of fun. So we have the good stories, we have the amazing visuals, like descriptive visuals, the amazing descriptions, we have the really good dialogue, back and forth stuff, we have, as a fourth reason, we have the great world building, which is all really cool. Now we come to the next one, and that's maybe a bit more, I don't know, it's prose in general. Now, I'm someone who really enjoys words. I like well done prose and interesting, like when authors do something with words that is beyond just writing down what happened. I'm someone who really enjoys that. No matter in like which book we're talking about, which genre we're talking about, I just really enjoy that. And the Malazan Book of the Fallen is written by someone who knows a lot of words, who knows the best words, and who uses all of those words, which is really cool. And is someone who actually, yeah, Stephen Erickson knows how to use his language to make his language do more than just, you know, tell you what happens, but conveys a lot of meaning, emotions, all these things, conveys all of that through language as well, or just makes you sit down and say, whoa, this is a really beautiful, well done sentence. And that's something I personally really enjoy because, as I said, I love words and I love people who know how to do stuff with words. It's why I, you know, in a way, why I enjoy, for example, stuff like Thomas Pynchon, or why I, on the other hand, enjoy Cormac McCarthy, because those people know how to do stuff with words that go beyond just telling a story. So yeah, we have that in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. The fifth reason why it's basically for everyone is like, if you read just to read good prose because you like to read language well handled, then the Malazan Book of the Fallen is for you. So we have the stories first, we have the amazing descriptions, the visuals basically, we have the really cool dialogue, we have the amazing world building, and we have the extremely well done prose. So we have already 5 reasons why you might enjoy the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Any one of those should be enough to actually pull you through the book. Now we come to the 6th one. I'm really collecting reasons here. Holy shit. Okay, the 6th one is finally the themes. Maybe you like to read stories that make you think, that deal with philosophical topics. It's something that science fiction has done a lot of, like, a lot more than fantasy. I mean, fantasy has done it from time to time, but science fiction has always dealt more with concepts and made you think about stuff. Like when we stick to genre fiction, obviously other things do that as well. So we obviously already said in so many videos, and everyone will tell you all the time, it's about empathy and compassion. There's more, you know, themes in there that are like dealt with on, like, in the guise of a fantasy novel, but actually could be written down as philosophical arguments and formalized if you are that kind of person and feel like that's a really good idea. I personally think that's not always a good idea, but I know there's people out there who like to do that. And the Malazan Book of the Fallen is full of those things, and you can just, you know, just read it as a collection of arguments for different aspects of what it means to be human, what the human condition is. You can do that if you want. That's something that is really in there, you know, the theoretical level we had that. There's this discussion: is it postmodern or not? And Stephen Erickson has said yes, there is. You can read it from a postmodern perspective, and there's that cipher is hidden in Toll the Hounds, and that will like lay out a lot of arguments in there. Go ahead, do that if that's the kind of thing you want to do. And this is maybe something that might interest you, even if fantasy literature in general is not your specific cup of tea, because you can read that and just, ignore all the trappings, all the swords, all the magic, all the fireballs, all that stuff. You can ignore all of that and just look at the arguments that are made there, because they are made in a way that every kind of literature does make its arguments. It's the same you can find when you read Pynchon, when you read the classic novels that always deal with certain themes and topics. You can read it just as well like that and just ignore that there's swords and fireballs in there, and you will still have a lot in there that is enjoyable, that is smart, that is, well, that's the kind of fun that you're obviously looking for when you have like this more philosophical bend of mind. So it's also fun to read it that way. Which brings me to like 6 ways why the Malazan Book of the Fallen is for you. And it's for you if you like any of those. Now we come to the 7th part, and that's like, okay, the 6 reasons are: 1, the storytelling. There's a lot of really cool stories in there. 2, the descriptions, the visuals. There's a lot of set pieces in there that are just really impressive. Number 2. 3, the dialogue. The dialogue is well done. It fits to whichever part you're like in the moment. It fits to all kinds of moods. If you like great dialogue, it's a book for you. 4th, the world building. The world building is extremely impressive. If you like world building, then yes, this is a book for you, because you can sink your teeth in there until, I don't know, doomsday, which, well, looking at the times we are living in right now, might just be next week. Anyway, number 5, words. There's a lot of extremely, like, the prose itself is just well crafted on a level that you don't see that often in genre fiction. It's just really well done. Number 6, the philosophical, ethical, and so forth themes that are argued in this book are impressive. So we're at 6 now. I need more hands. We're at 6 different reasons why you might like the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now we come to number 7, which I think is the best of it. It is, no matter which is your reason to start the book, because you love that specific thing, over the course of it, and that's the magic of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, it will draw you further in. It will draw you further in, and those other reasons I just put up here, those will sneak up on you, and suddenly you will, you go there for the cool fight scenes, and suddenly you'll start caring about those characters and wondering what will happen to them. You'll start wondering about the plot, and then you will start laughing about those jokes and the dialogues they're having. And then you start wondering about the world, and then you sit back and just appreciate the language. And then you close the book and you start thinking about those arguments made in there. And then you realize that it has really hooked you on all of those levels. And that's what makes the Malazan Book of the Fallen such a great read for everyone who just plain likes reading books. Because it, ticks all those different boxes, and it will draw you in. You will start appreciating all the other boxes after a while as well. So, no matter what your perfect, most favorite books so far, no matter what you actually look for in books in general, what you enjoy when you read, no matter what that is, the Malazan Book of the Fallen will have it, and it will draw you further in, and it will show you why all those other aspects are also really important in books. It can make you appreciate those aspects in other authors as well. It will make you a better reader if you read it. And you don't need to be super smart to get that. You can start on whichever point and let no one tell you that if you don't get it, you're not smart enough. Maybe you've just not, looked for the one thing that you really wanted to find in there. So don't listen to the hype. Don't listen to the detractors either. Go ahead, read the book. Read it like your favorite other book, and it will draw you in. That's it for me for today, and I hope you take something out of this. Yeah, cheers.